Hollywood gave Teyana Taylor a Golden Globe. They gave her a Ryan Murphy series. They gave her Oscar buzz, a studio deal, and a carefully constructed public image built to make her look managed and contained. What they didn't give her was Final Cut. And according to Katt Williams, that's the only thing that actually terrifies them. Because the moment Teyana Taylor stepped behind a camera with full creative control, she stopped being talent. She became a threat, not because of what she's done publicly, but because of what she's seen privately, and what she might choose to put on screen if she decides the time has come to stop being careful. Katt's message in his new Netflix special is simple and it is chilling. They aren't trying to erase Teyana Taylor because she's difficult. They're trying to erase her because she is dangerous, and the difference between those two things is everything. To understand why that warning carries weight, you have to understand just how impossible her rise actually was, and why that impossibility is exactly what makes her so threatening. Most people in the industry get one lane: singer or actress, performer or director. The machine is designed that way deliberately. Keep talent specialized, keep them dependent, keep them returning to the gatekeepers for every next step. Teyana Taylor refused every single one of those boxes and did it publicly. She started as a teenager from Harlem who Pharrell spotted, choreographed for Beyoncé before most people her age had declared a college major, then entered the most watched creative circle in hip-hop history. Good music. Kanye West's label at its peak wasn't just a record deal. It was an ecosystem that touched music, fashion, film, and the back channels of the broader entertainment industry. Teyana wasn't on the outside looking in. She was signed. She was in the rooms. She was watching how deals were structured, how people were managed, how careers were built and dismantled by the same hands, and she was filing all of it away while everyone in those rooms assumed the young woman in the corner was focused on her performance and nothing else. That good music education would turn out to be the foundation of everything the industry is now afraid of. But before Get Light, before the Golden Globe, before Ryan Murphy came calling, there was a moment where the industry almost won. And Teyana put it on the internet herself so nobody could pretend it didn't happen. She took to Instagram to announce her retirement from music. The blogs pushed a clean narrative, creative differences with her label, the usual story. But that wasn't what she actually said. She went on record stating she had asked to be released from Def Jam over 10 times. 10. Not once in a heated moment. Not twice after a bad rollout. 10 documented requests to be let go from a label she described using her own words: unseen, unheard, underappreciated. Think about what it takes to publicly ask your label to drop you 10 times and get ignored 10 times. That isn't a creative disagreement. That is a power structure refusing to release its grip on someone whose value, financial, cultural, or otherwise, it isn't finished extracting. Labels don't hold onto artists they don't need. They hold onto artists they need to keep controlled. Katt Williams has pointed to this moment specifically as the first time the industry showed its hand. He argues the retirement wasn't Teyana walking away. It was a door being forced closed before she could start opening others. She was getting louder. She was getting more visible, and visibility, for a woman who had been inside those good music rooms, was the one thing they could not afford. The label eventually released her, but the momentum damage was done, a calculated pause disguised as a mutual parting. And Teyana, rather than disappearing the way they expected, pivoted to film, started building something they couldn't attach a contract to. That pivot is what changed everything. To understand why Katt is the one sounding this alarm, you have to go back to January 2024. Club Shay Shay, 4 hours with Shannon Sharpe. No filter. Katt Williams methodically named names, challenged legacies, and dared anyone with a contract to prove him wrong. Kevin Hart, Steve Harvey. Industry structures operating in comfortable silence for decades. What made it different from every other celebrity expose wasn't shock value, it was specificity. He gave timelines, he gave context. He described rooms with the kind of detail that comes from being there, not from gossip. Then came the Netflix special, The Last Report, February 2026. And Katt made clear in every promotional interview that Club Shay Shay was the opening statement, not the closing argument. What was coming next had documentation behind it. That's when Teyana Taylor's name entered the conversation with a different kind of weight. Their overlap traces back to the good music era. Katt moved in those same circles, present in the ecosystem where those deals were being made and those allegiances were being formed. He has said publicly that he witnessed contract structures that covered not just music rights, but public behavior, personal relationships, and appearance obligations at events never listed on any official schedule, standard label deals, comprehensive management of a human being's entire existence. His argument is that what Teyana is facing now is a direct continuation of a system that was already being built around her in 2010. The industry didn't suddenly decide she was a problem. They have been managing her as a problem for 15 years. The blacklist isn't new. It just finally became visible. Now here's the part that makes this different from every other artist who has fought this system. There is a fundamental difference between being in front of a camera and being behind one. Performers are managed. Their image, their output, their narrative running through a chain of people whose financial interests depend on keeping that performer productive and compliant. Directors break that structure entirely. A director decides what story gets told, what details make it into the frame, what gets preserved in the final cut, and what gets left out. A director with full creative control is operating with autonomy the performer track is specifically designed to prevent. Get Light is Teyana Taylor's directorial debut, Paramount Pictures attached. A film rooted in the culture she came from, told from a perspective that has never had a studio budget and a distribution deal before. On the surface, a creative milestone. The kind of project that gets celebrated in press releases about breaking barriers. Katt Williams is arguing that behind the scenes, the project terrifies the people who greenlit it. Not because of its subject matter as pitched, because of who is directing it and what that director is capable of embedding in the work if she decides the time has come to stop being careful. This is not far-fetched. Filmmakers have always used their work as a vessel for truth that couldn't be communicated directly. Coded references, symbolic imagery, narrative structures that carry a second meaning for anyone watching closely enough. It is one of the oldest traditions in cinema, particularly in Black film, where direct confrontation with power has historically been met with swift consequences. You say what you need to say in the frame, you trust the audience to find it. The project stalled. The timeline went quiet. Paramount stopped making noise about it in the trade press, the kind of institutional silence that in any other context would be written off as development delays, but arriving here with very specific and very suspicious choreography. Around the same time, the Aaron Pierre split was reported. Quietly. Almost too quietly for two people who had been that publicly intertwined. He had appeared in her escape room visual album, woven into her art in a deeply personal way. The official explanation was scheduling conflicts and the friction of two careers moving at full speed. Clean, familiar. But the timing placed it within weeks of Katt's claims gaining serious traction, and the Get Light silence becoming harder to ignore. Whether that timing is coincidence is a question the internet hasn't stopped asking. What is not in dispute is the pattern underneath all of it. Hollywood has a documented, repeatable system for neutralizing Black women the moment they accumulate enough power to become ungovernable. The rumor arrives first, she's difficult, she's emotional, she's hard to work with. No named sources, no specific incidents, just repetition until the audience is primed. Monique lived this after her Oscar. Taraji P. Henson broke down on camera talking about her paycheck. The details change. The mechanism doesn't. Find the leverage point. Flood the narrative with questions about her reliability. Make the story about her behavior rather than the industry's. Wait for the public to lose interest. What makes Teyana's situation different, according to Katt, is the scale of what she potentially holds. Previous targets were fighting for fair pay, for creative credit, for basic dignity. Teyana isn't just asking for her fair share. She is allegedly sitting on documentation of how the deals themselves are structured. Who benefits, what artists sacrifice, what the rooms that produce those deals actually looked like from the inside. That shifts the nature of the erasure entirely. This isn't about managing a difficult personality. This is about containing a witness. Films don't disappear, footage doesn't erase itself. And a director who has spent 15 years watching, remembering, and documenting does not pick up a camera without knowing precisely what she intends to leave behind. Get Light has not been released. Its timeline is quiet, but Katt Williams isn't quiet. The audience tracking this story isn't quiet. And the industry's conspicuous silence about when the world will see that film is saying something louder than any press release ever could. The real question isn't whether Teyana Taylor has the evidence. The real question is whether Hollywood can afford to find out what she does with it. And based on everything covered here, they already know the answer. They just can't afford to admit it.